Wizards of the Coast released a new UA on April 2nd that had 4 brand new subclasses for the Cleric, Druid, Fighter, and Sorcerer. And in this video, I will be going through them all and giving my thoughts along the way. In this document too, they also released new feat trees that give options to turn into a Death Knight or Lich, which I will cover later. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that, why not hit that subscribe button to keep up to date. But without further ado, let's start with the Cleric and its Pestilence domain. Clerics in the Pestilence domain harness the powers of disease and decay to hinder their foes. Starting with the first ability, level 3, Blight Weaver, which grants them the following abilities. Inoculated Soul. You have resistance to necrotic and poison damage, and you cannot be infected by magical contagions. And Rot Infestor. Damage from your cleric spells and cleric features ignore resistance to necrotic and poison damage. Additionally, when you cast a cleric spell or use a cleric feature that deals either necrotic or poison damage, you can change that damage type to the other type. So these features are nice since they do play into the theme of the subclass, and resistance is also always nice to have. And then on top of that, having your cleric spells being able to ignore resistance to necrotic and poison is also good, since obviously the subclass is going to be doing that quite a bit. Speaking of which, their next feature is their spell list, which is okay. It's very on brand with the subclass, and with the previous feature, a lot of the spells do get stronger since you no longer have to worry about the creatures being resistant. But nothing in the spell list blows me away, or makes me want to play this subclass. Last feature at level 3, we have the Plague Blessing, which states, as a magic action, you present your holy symbol and expend a use of Channel Divinity to manifest a 5-foot emanation of Withering Plague that surrounds you or one willing creature you touch for 1 minute. Each creature of your choice that starts its turn in the emanation must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC or gain 1 exhaustion level. This feature cannot increase a creature's exhaustion level higher than a level equal to your Wisdom modifier. For example, if you have a Wisdom score of 16, this feature cannot increase a creature's exhaustion level higher than 3. So this feature is interesting. Being able to dish out exhaustion, depending on the enemy, is pretty strong, since even at a +3 modifier, it can reduce a creature's rolls by 6, and its movement speed by 15, and it obviously gets better as you progress. So even though exhaustion isn't as punishing in 5.5 than it was in 5e, it's still pretty good, and does make this ability pretty strong, in my opinion. At level 6, they get Virulent Blast, which states, when an enemy within 60 feet of you is reduced to 0 hit points, you can take a reaction to cause a plague to burst from that creature, spreading pestilence in a 10-foot emanation originating from the enemy. If the enemy had at least a 1 exhaustion level, the size of the emanation increases to 20 feet. Each creature of your choice in that emanation must make a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, the target suffers one of the following effects. Putrid Shock. The target has the incapacitated condition until the end of its next turn. While incapacitated, the target speed is 0. Or Toxic Infection. The target takes 3d6 necrotic or poison damage. You can use this feature equal to a number of times to your Wisdom modifier, and you regain all expended uses on a long rest. So this feature is also pretty good, since it does play off of the previous feature with the exhaustion, and probably the best one in my opinion to use is Putrid Shock. Since if the target fails, it effectively skips their entire turn, since they literally cannot do anything, and if the target's already exhausted, you basically have a mini hypnotic pattern. Lastly, their capstone feature, Vermin Form, grants them the following. As a bonus action, you can shapeshift into a medium swarm of tiny pests. While you're in this form, you retain your general shape, personality, memories, and the ability to speak. Any equipment you're wearing or carrying doesn't transform with you, but you can continue to use that equipment while in this form. Your game stats remain the same, apart from the following changes. Condition immunities, you have the immunity to grappled, poisoned, prone, and restrained. In damage resistances, you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Movement, you can enter and occupy another creature's space, and vice versa. Additionally, you have a climb speed equal to your speed, and can climb difficult surfaces, including along ceilings, without needing to make an ability check. And then Plague Bites. Whenever you enter an enemy space, that creature takes damage equal to your Wisdom modifier. That damage is necrotic, piercing, or poison. A creature also takes this damage when it enters your space or ends its turn there. A creature takes this damage only once per turn. Once you use this feature, you cannot use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a 5th level spell slot. Okay, this capstone feature is pretty weak. The condition immunities and resistances are nice and all, but that's all it's got going for it. The Plague Bites sure could scale with Spirit Guardians or other AoEs, but in comparison to other capstones this class could get, it just pales in comparison. Next up, we have Circle the Titan Druid, which allows the Druid to turn themselves into giant creatures and wreak havoc, which at level 3 we have their spell list, which is a pretty decent spell list, with Fear and Destructive Wave being the standouts. But the better plus with the spell list is the fact that you can cast these spells while in your Titan form, similar to Circle of the Moon, which does inherently make the spell list a bit better. Speaking of Titan form, that is what they get next at level 3, which basically allows a druid to, instead of wild shaping into an animal, they can instead turn themselves into a behemoth, leviathan, or an insectoid, with stat blocks to accompany them. Behemoth turns the druid into a walking, lumbering creature of destruction. Leviathan basically turns them into a kraken, while the insectoid turns them into a flying annoyance that can also heal allies. The Titan forms are interesting, and I would say the Behemoth is the most useful off the bat for out-of-the-box combat capability, while the Insectoid is an interesting support-based form that gets even more interesting at later levels. At level 6 they get Dire Impact, which grants them the following. Elemental Rend. Whenever you hit your Titan form's Rend attack, you can cause it to deal your choice of acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage instead of its normal type. Shockwave. Your transformation upheaves your surroundings. Immediately after you assume Titan form, or by taking a bonus action to expand a level 1 spell slot, while in your Titan form, you can create a shockwave in a 15-foot emanation originating from you. Each creature in the emanation must succeed a con save against your spell save DC or have the prone condition. So these features are decent, with obviously the Elemental Rend being useful to get past non-magical resistance, and Shockwave being able to dish out the prone condition is nice, but it does suck if you're doing this near allies, and or just wanting it to use it outside of combat. And also, it being a con save also does hinder this ability as well. At level 10, they get Primal Havoc, which grants them the following. Improve the Titan form. You can choose to become huge when assuming your Titan form. Each Titan form also gains an additional benefit. Above it all, while you are huge or larger in your Titan form, difficult terrain caused by heavy snow, ice, rubble, or undergrowth doesn't cost you extra movement. So this is where these forms start to get a bit more interesting, since Behemoth now has the ability to make enemies go prone by walking into their space, if they fail a strength save, that is, or take some damage if they are already prone, which does combo nicely with Shockwave. Leviathan gets a Toxic Cloud that deals 2d4 damage, and the Poison Condition. Honestly, this one isn't as impressive. And Insectoid once again is the most interesting, with its Hive Mind ability, granting Telepathy, which somehow makes this form useful for social encounters, and maybe recon/stealth to basically be a communication hub. Lastly, level 14 they get Monstrous Appetite, which grants them the following benefits. Gargantuan Size. You can choose to become gargantuan when assuming your Titan form. Grappling Rend. Once per turn, when you are huge or larger and hit a creature with your Rend attack of your Titan form, you can give the target the grappled condition. You can only have one target grappled in this way at a time. Swallow. As a bonus action, while you are gargantuan, choose one large or smaller creature grappled by you. The target makes a strength saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failure, you swallow the target, and the grappled condition ends on it. A swallow creature has the blinded and restrained conditions, cover against attacks and other effects outside of your stomach, and it takes 2d8 acid damage at the start of each of its turns. The number of creatures you can have swallowed at a time equals to your wisdom modifier, and you must maintain concentration to hold a swallowed creature in your stomach. If you lose concentration or leave your Titan form, you regurgitate all swallowed creatures, each of which falls in a space within 10 feet of you and has the prone condition. So I wouldn't say this is the strongest capstone, but I won't lie. It is one of the more fun ones, since you basically just get to turn into a giant monster, stomp around, eating foes, and just get to be Godzilla for a bit. So while mechanically being alright, on a fun factor it does get bonus points. For Fighter, we have the Hell Knight, which as the name states, you are a warrior of the 9 hells, and a champion to all archdevils and fiends of all kinds. They start with level 3, with Diabolical Gift, which gives them Devil Sight, exactly like the Eldritch Invocation, 120 feet of dark vision that can see through magical darkness, and Devil's Tongue, which allows them to speak and understand Infernal, or another language if you already know Infernal. Next level 3 feature they get is their Hellfire weapon, which states, when you take the attack action, you can imbue one weapon that you are holding with Hellfire, transforming it into a Hellfire weapon. While transformed into a Hellfire weapon, the weapon emits a dim light in a 5-foot emanation, and whenever you deal damage with the weapon, it can deal your choice of fire or its normal damage type. So while not extremely flashy, it does give the fighter early access to a way to get past non-magical resistance, which is not nothing, but otherwise this feature doesn't really do or add much. Last level 3 feature they get is Infernal Wound, which now has the Hellfire weapon do something, with the following features. Infernal Wound die. You have 1 Infernal Wound die, which is a D6, inflicting Infernal Wounds. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with your Hellfire weapon, you can deal extra fire damage equal to 1 roll of your Infernal Wound die, and give the target an Infernal Wound. While wounded in this way, the target takes fire damage equal to 1 of your Infernal Wound die at the start of each of his turns. This effect lasts for 1 minute, until the target regains hit points, or the target or the creature within 5 feet of the target takes an action to staunch the wound. A target can be affected by only 1 instance of this feature at a time. You can use this feature equal to a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier. You regain all expended uses when you finish a short or long rest. This feature is fine. Like, it's not nothing, but I wouldn't say it's particularly good or strong or anything like that. It would be better if it wasn't limited by the number of times per use. At level 7, they get Advanced Wounds, which states, when you roll your Infernal Wound die and roll a 6, you can apply one of the following effects. Purulence of Mineros. Caustic pus erupts from the wound. Each creature in a 5-foot emanation originating from the target takes acid damage equal to your Constitution modifier, and the target has the poisoned condition until the start of his next turn. Rupture of Kana. The wound ruptures with a spurt of arcane energy. The target takes force damage equal to your Constitution modifier. And Stygian Gangrene. Infernal Rime spreads out from the wound. The target takes cold damage equal to your Con modifier, and cannot take reactions until the start of its next turn. So yeah, this without limitations would be a pretty good set of abilities. But not only do you have to roll a 6 on a 1d6 die roll, it is also limited by your Con modifier per rest, since you cannot roll the Infernal Wound die without using the Infernal Wound feature. So if you don't meet any of those criteria, you do not have this feature. Marshals, once again, cannot have anything nice. Also at level 7, they get Hell-Forged equipment, which basically gives fire resistance while wearing armor, and can bypass fire resistance with weapon attacks and fighter abilities, which are good features to have, with fire damage not only being a good damage to resist, but also is a good damage type to be able to ignore. At level 10, they get Hellfire Surge, which gives them the following. When you use your action surge while wearing armor or wielding a shield, you can superheat your equipment, causing it to erupt with hellfire and a 10-foot emanation originating from you. Each creature of your choice in that emanation must succeed on a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, a target takes fire damage equal to 1 roll of your Infernal Wound die and is burning. On a successful save, a target takes half damage. So this feature isn't bad, and does get slightly better at next level, but at this level, 1d6 of fire damage isn't that great. Even at next level, when it could possibly go up to 3d6 fire damage, it's still only okay. Speaking of, at level 15 they get Blisters of Avernus, which states, your Hellfire leaves painful, boiling blisters. When you roll a 6 on your Infernal Wound die, you can roll another d6 and add it to the damage. The maximum number of d6s you can add to Infernal Wound's damage is 3. So on the plus side, we can now have more than 1d6 of damage. But we gotta roll a 6. In pure concept of exploding dice, this is kind of fun. Having it only be up to 3, and if you don't roll a 6, you don't have a subclass feature. And also, you just don't get a dot increase in damage at this level if you don't roll a 6. At level 18, we get Hellfire Condemnation, which states, whenever damage from your Hellfire weapon or Infernal Wound reduces the creature to 0 hit points, the creature dies and its soul rises from the river Styx as a lemure, in a layer of the 9 hells of your choice in 1d4 hours. If the creature isn't revived by then, only a wish spell can return the creature to life. So thematically this is a cool feature, but that's where the positives end though. Since you don't even get to have a Lemire to use in battle, it just goes off into the hells. Granted, a Lemire at level 18 isn't particularly good, but it would at least be something. So yeah, thematically it's cool, but mechanically this capstone feature literally provides nothing. Lastly, also at level 18, they also get Infernal Bargain. They get the ability that when they roll a 1 on their Infernal die, they can treat that roll as a 6. Wow. Just, wow. Honestly, I don't even want to talk about this feature. This subclass just sucks across the board, in my opinion. So, let's move on to Sorcerer. Sorcerers get Demonic Sorcery, which is basically the Fiend Warlock, but for sorcerers. Which, honestly, I'm surprised we never got this subclass or something like it sooner. At level 3, they start off with Abyssal Rupture, which states, when you spend at least one sorcery point as part of the magic action or a bonus action on your turn, you can unleash one of the following magical effects of your choice. Demonic Lash. One creature you can see within 20 feet of you takes 1d4 slashing damage, and if it's large or smaller, you can pull it 10 feet closer to you. And Fiendish Carapace. Until the start of your next turn, attack rolls against you have disadvantage. This feature is pretty nice, since obviously, being a sorcerer, you're expending sorcery points pretty often, so you can use these features just as often, either doing some damage, or just making yourself tougher to hit. Next up, there's Spell List, which is pretty solid. Nothing too crazy, but nothing too bad either, with level 3 being pretty stacked, with Entangled and Misty Step, followed by Dispel Magic at level 5. At level 6, they get Abyssal Aura, which says, when you use your innate sorcery, you can infuse the chaos of the abyss into your surroundings. While this use of an innate sorcery is active, reality warps in a 10-foot emanation originating from you, filling the area with a demonic effect. Roll on the Abyssal Effects table to determine the effect. If an effect requires a saving throw, the DC is equal to your spell save DC. Once you use this feature, you cannot use it again until you finish a long rest. Looking at the table, all of the options are good in my opinion. The only one I would say is the weakest is Poisonous Foliage. And even then is not awful and obviously doesn't cost anything extra, so this feature is just really good overall. At level 14, we get Abyssal Conduit, which increases the aura to 20 feet, and you can now roll 2 die, and if they roll the same, we can choose the effect. It's nothing flashy, but very solid improvements to the previous aura ability. For its capstone feature, it gets Fiendish Servant, which grants them the following. You can cast Summon Fiend without material component. You can also cast it once without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it in this way when you finish a long rest. When you cast it in this way, you must choose a demon for the summoned creature type. So as a capstone, it's kind of meh, since you're getting a 6th level spell when you're able to cast Wish and other groundbreaking spells. It would be nice if you're able to cast it for free at the max level, which would bring it up a couple notches, but overall, as a capstone, it's alright. So those are the villainous subclasses in the latest UA. Overall, most of them are pretty solid, with the standout being Demonic Sorcerer, for overall just being a cool and fun subclass that, again, surprised we never got sooner. And the other standout in my opinion being the Hell Knight, for just being awful. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like and subscribe to keep up to date on all things 5e. Bye for now.